Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Max from River Rock Financial Group, and this presentation is about one very simple concept: generational wealth versus generational scarcity. And so, what I'm going to do is attempt in very simple terms to explain what generational scarcity is. We always hear this term generational wealth, but we really don't know what it means. And generational scarcity must exist because we're so busy talking about generational wealth. And so, without further ado, let me get into it. So generational wealth versus generational scarcity. Okay. So four things to think about when you talk about generational wealth versus generational scarcity. What does generational wealth teach and what does generational scarcity teach? What does generational wealth teach and what does generational scarcity teach? All right, so here we go. Generational wealth teaches courage, creativity, speed, efficiency, resilience, and limitlessness. Generational scarcity teaches fear, limits, lack, and small minded thinking. Think about it. Everything on this planet that's done at a high level and by very successful people and their families is because they teach their kids something different that other people teach them. There is no very large organization or very large company that was created by somebody that was fearful. Maybe they were afraid for a little while, but then they decided to take the leap and do something that nobody else did or has done. So if you think about all the different inventions, all the different businesses, all the different gadgets, clothes, everything you do and use, uh, somebody at some point had to decide within themselves they weren't going to be afraid to do it. I'm not going to name any names or talk about any specific companies. You can do that on your own. I'm not going to insult your intelligence. What I am going to tell you is just look around you. And everything at one point was just a thought in somebody's mind. So from transportation to technology to medicine, you name it, everything on this planet was done by somebody who had a thought in their mind and then they acted on it. And whether they failed or succeeded at some point, it became a reality. So just remember these two things. So there are four things I want to talk about, but scarcity versus wealth, generational wealth versus generational scarcity. Generational wealth creates and leverages time, whereas generational scarcity wastes and trades time. What does that mean? The faster and more wealth you generate, the more time you have. There's no more time being created, and time is limitless into eternity. However, in the human mind and human time, the more wealth you have, notice I didn't say money, the more wealth you have, the more time it seems like you have. For example, somebody who's wealthy or rich can do things that somebody who's not can do. So when you're wealthy, or if you generate enough wealth and create enough space between you and, let me see how I want to say this, between you and the your bills, you can create more time. People that are not continue to waste time and trade time, and I think we've all been guilty, right? Trading time for money is something that I'm going to talk about here in a second, but that's in particular what I want to say. Scarcity teaches that you have to do that. Wealth teaches you don't have to do that. So maybe I'll do another presentation on that. But for right now, just understand this concept. Generational wealth creates and leverages time, whereas generational scarcity wastes and trades time. All right. Generational wealth calculates net worth. And generational scarcity counts stuff. So generational wealth teaches that you don't count your value in money, but in net worth. You ever seen somebody, or if you ever filled out a sheet of paper or something, maybe a mortgage or I don't know, whatever. And you ever heard somebody say, what's your net worth, or the person's net worth, or the business's or company's net worth is this, as opposed to how many cars you have, how big is your house, how many clothes you have, how many pair of name brand shoes you have, so on and so forth, etc. So generational wealth doesn't care about how much stuff you have. It cares about something very simple. Assets minus liabilities equals net worth. Generational scarcity teaches buy more shoes, buy more phones, buy more clothes, buy more. And I'm not saying that those things are bad. What I'm saying is generational wealth teaches net worth versus the acquisition of more depreciating liabilities. And then last but not least, generational wealth multiplies the ownership of production, whereas generational scarcity consumes and feeds the owners of production. I said a lot there. Generational wealth multiplies the ownership of production, and generational scarcity consumes and feeds the owners of production. That means that the more wealth a person generates, they then start to acquire the ownership of production of goods and services. The less wealth you generate, you can see, consume and feed those owners of production. That does not mean you cannot become a producer. It means that the less you produce, the more you consume. And also what that means is to create production if you want to get out of the first category or first and second category. Right? You want to get into the production category as opposed to the consumption. You do consume, but you want to be able to produce more than you consume. All right, so what does all this have to do with life insurance? What does any of this have to do with life insurance? Everything. Accumulation and transfer. So I haven't packed these slides with a lot of information because I just want to talk. The accumulation of life insurance, and no, it's not just about dying. Okay. So the accumulation phase of life insurance can start at a very early age. As a matter of fact, most wealthy families, what they do is they start life insurance, whole life insurance uh, policies with their children at very young ages, sometimes at birth. And then they add to that with an annuity or index life insurance policy. And yeah, they have things like 401ks, savings accounts, stocks, bonds, mutual funds. But I'm not going to get into all that. What I am saying is this: if you start early enough, it doesn't have to be about just dying. Life insurance policies aren't about just dying, they're about the tax free accumulation and then the transfer of those funds into accounts for their children and themselves. So you can actually use a life insurance policy for your own benefit. You can borrow from it. You can use it to make a down payment on a house. You can use it to purchase a home. I even know of situations where people have used life insurance policies to purchase businesses. They can be used for so many different things. Yet, if you go back to my four thoughts, the most people don't understand this because they've been taught this, that life insurance is a scam, or somebody's just trying to take your money with life insurance policy, or it's all about death. They're not gonna get rich off of me when I die. So on and on and on and on. Meanwhile, those that are continuing to accumulate tax-free money, tax-free cash, wealth creation via life insurance policies, and then transfer those policies in various ways through life insurance policies to themselves and their children and their business and their family and their community and their schools. They keep doing it. Meanwhile, most people don't see the value in it until it's too late. I did a post about a gentleman who came and asked for some information about a final expense policy, and he was 65 years old. And of course, he had tried before, or he had thought about it before and just didn't do it because of what I'm about to tell you. Once we began talking, and I told him what the premium was going to be, he then stated to me or asked me a question. In a very gruff way, he said, "Am I going to have to pay this the rest of my life?" I politely told him yes, and I also told him the reasons why. He then hung up the phone. Unfortunately, this is the case for most people. And so, having said that, I do recommend anybody. You don't have to. I don't care if you buy from. It doesn't matter if you get a life insurance policy from my agency or somebody else's agency. It doesn't matter. My thing is to make sure people understand the information and why this is so prevalent, and that you cannot blame people whose families continue to do so. Somebody has to do it. Somebody has to start it. If you don't have one, if you don't have a life insurance policy, if you don't have an annuity, if you don't have an IUL, if you have a 401k with your job, and you have a life insurance policy with your job, and you think that's okay, it's not. You need a private life insurance policy, just like rich and wealthy people do. And just like them, you can transfer those funds to your family, and you can actually borrow from whole life policies. And there's so many other benefits you can use it for, not just dying. So, having said that, I'm going to end this presentation. Please, I don't care if you get it from me, get it from somebody else. Find your nearest, closest life insurance agency. Go ask questions, do your due diligence, and please do not be the person in your family who passes the opportunity again to the next generation and then generationally continue the same cycle. Do what's difficult while it's easy.